they laughed at me the day I lost everything. My husband, David, was gone, and I felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. The house that once felt full of love now felt empty, and the whispers from my neighbors and in-laws made it even harder to breathe. They treated me like I was weak, like I couldn't handle life on my own. Every glance, every comment, even small gestures, felt like a reminder that I was alone. But what they didn't know was that my children, Emma and Luke, were watching everything, learning how to be brave even at their young age. Emma, only 8, was quiet but observant. She would sit next to me at night, holding my hand, and say, "Mom, we're going to be okay. We have each other." Luke, 6, had a smile that could light up the darkest room. He would bring me little things from around the house, a drawing, a toy, and tell me, "Mom, we'll make them see we're strong." Their innocence gave me strength I didn't think I had. They reminded me that even though the world was cruel, I still had love waiting for me at home. Every day felt like a test. My mother-in-law, Carol, constantly criticized my parenting. She said I was too soft with the kids, that I would ruin them, that I was failing my husband even in death. And Vanessa, David's sister, made sure every family gathering turned into a trial. She would laugh at my mistakes, exaggerate small things, and make sure everyone noticed how incapable she thought I was. At first, I tried to ignore it, but it was impossible. The humiliation ate at me, and some nights I cried silently, wishing I could disappear. But then I noticed something. Emma and Luke weren't just watching, they were learning how to fight in their own small ways. They started pointing out when Vanessa lied or when my mother-in-law's stories didn't add up. They reminded me that I wasn't imagining things, the cruelty was real. Their courage inspired me to take small steps, to think carefully, and to protect myself and my children. I started paying attention to everything, remembering every insult, every lie, and every moment they tried to make me feel small. I realized I couldn't let their cruelty continue unchecked. I needed a plan, not out of anger, but to protect my family and restore our peace. I started noticing patterns in Vanessa's behavior, the way she manipulated situations, and the way my children instinctively knew how to respond. Together, we were stronger than anyone imagined. They may have thought they were in control, but Emma, Luke, and I were quietly preparing for a time when the truth would show, and when strength, courage, and love would be on our side. Even in the darkest moments, I learned that humiliation doesn't define you. Losing David hurt more than I can describe, but the love of my children made me realize that no one can take away what really matters. And with them by my side, I knew we could face anything, and that one day, the people who laughed at us would see how wrong they were. Vanessa, my late husband's sister, seemed to take pleasure in making my life miserable. At every family gathering, she found a way to criticize me. She would question how I managed the house, how I fed the kids, and even how I dressed. She made it clear that she thought I was incapable of running anything on my own. Once, during a small dinner with relatives, she loudly asked if I could really afford the groceries I had bought, making everyone turn to look at me. I felt my cheeks burn with shame, but there was nothing I could do in that moment except smile and nod. She didn't stop there. Vanessa started questioning my financial decisions openly. She asked why I didn't invest in certain things, why I hadn't sold the house, and why I wasn't working more. She twisted every answer I gave into a mistake. It was clear she wanted everyone to see me as weak and foolish. At first, I tried to explain myself, but it only made things worse. The more I defended myself, the more she attacked. I began to dread family events, knowing she would find a way to humiliate me. Even at home, Vanessa's words haunted me. I started doubting myself, wondering if maybe I wasn't capable. But every time I looked at Emma and Luke, I remembered why I had to stay strong. They didn't care about money or mistakes, they only cared about me. Their small smiles and the way they ran to hug me when I got home reminded me that love was stronger than Vanessa's cruelty. Emma, even at 8, noticed Vanessa's patterns. She would whisper to Luke about how Vanessa always tried to make Mom feel small and how she lied to make herself look better. Luke, always curious, would point out small things he saw, like Vanessa moving the bills to make it look like we weren't paying attention or exaggerating stories about me to the family. Their observations made me see things clearly for the first time. Vanessa wasn't just mean, she was planning every moment to make me look bad. I began keeping track of her actions quietly. I wrote down the things she said, the ways she manipulated situations, and the times she tried to embarrass me in front of others. Watching her closely, I realized that her confidence came from underestimating me. She thought I was alone, weak, and easy to control. But Emma and Luke were learning, and together, we started thinking of ways to protect ourselves. Even though I felt trapped in that moment, I wasn't defeated. Each of Vanessa's attacks made me more determined to rise above her. I could see the truth through my children's eyes, and that gave me hope. Every small act of cruelty Vanessa tried would soon meet a quiet resistance, and little by little, we began to plan how to make sure she could no longer hurt us. It wasn't about revenge yet, it was about survival and learning to fight in our own way, as a family. Life felt heavier with each passing day. Between taking care of Emma and Luke, managing the house, and keeping up with my job, I barely had a moment to breathe. Every task seemed harder when I knew Vanessa was watching, waiting for me to slip up. She didn't need to say anything, her presence alone was enough to make me feel judged. Even when she was quiet, I could feel her eyes on me, calculating, ready to turn anything I did into a mistake. The subtle sabotage grew worse over time. Small financial support that had been promised from the family suddenly disappeared. Bills that were supposed to be shared were left for me to handle alone, and Vanessa made sure everyone knew I was struggling. Rumors about me began spreading too, stories that painted me as careless, irresponsible, and unable to care for my children. People I had once trusted seemed to believe her version of events, and it made my life even lonelier. Every little thing became a test. If I missed a deadline at work, Vanessa would smile and tell relatives how irresponsible I was. If I forgot to buy something for the kids' school, she would whisper to family members, making them believe I was careless. It was exhausting, and some nights I went to bed feeling like I couldn't do anything right. I began to wonder if I would ever be free from this constant pressure. But while the days were hard, there were moments that reminded me why I had to keep going. Emma and Luke never stopped encouraging me. They noticed my tired eyes and gave me small hugs or whispered, "Mom, we know you're strong." Their faith in me became the fuel I needed. It wasn't just about surviving anymore, it was about showing my children, and myself, that we could rise above the cruelty around us. It slowly became clear that surviving alone wasn't enough. I couldn't just endure Vanessa's attacks and hope they would stop. If I wanted peace and respect, I had to reclaim my dignity. That meant paying attention to every detail, learning how to protect my family, and not letting anyone make me feel small again. I started thinking more strategically, noticing patterns in Vanessa's behavior and understanding how she manipulated situations. I realized that strength wasn't about anger or confrontation, it was about calm, careful action. By keeping a clear mind and focusing on my children and myself, I could start building a life where we weren't defined by Vanessa's cruelty. Slowly, I began making plans, small steps at first, to regain control of our lives. I wanted to create a home where Emma and Luke felt safe and proud of me, a place where we could live without fear of judgment. Even though the days were exhausting, a quiet determination grew inside me. I wasn't just a widow struggling to survive, I was a mother, a protector, and someone who could face cruelty without letting it break her spirit. This was just the beginning of reclaiming my life. Emma and Luke were quick to notice how much Vanessa's words hurt me, and even at their young ages, they wanted to help. They didn't have a big plan at first, they just started doing small things to push back. During family dinners, if Vanessa made a comment that wasn't true, Emma would politely point out what really happened, catching her in front of everyone without anyone realizing it was deliberate. Luke had a knack for noticing when Vanessa exaggerated or contradicted herself, and he would ask questions that made her stumble. Slowly, these little moments began to make her look careless and foolish. It was subtle, but it worked. Vanessa would start a story to make me look bad, and somehow, Emma or Luke would interrupt with a small truth that contradicted her. At first, Vanessa didn't realize it was intentional. She thought her power over us was still strong. But each time her lies or exaggerations were quietly exposed, the family began to see inconsistencies. People who had laughed along with her before started to pause and question what she was saying. Watching my children act this way inspired me. I realized that I didn't have to confront Vanessa aggressively to protect myself. I could be smart, careful, and patient. I began to write down everything Vanessa said or did that was manipulative or cruel. I kept track of every rumor she spread, every subtle insult, and every time she tried to embarrass me in front of others. This wasn't about revenge yet, it was about being ready to defend myself and my family if the time came. I also began thinking about how to respond in ways that wouldn't give Vanessa more power. For example, instead of arguing when she accused me of mistakes, I would calmly explain or show proof, letting her words backfire on her naturally. Emma and Luke's cleverness gave me confidence that we could handle her together. Their courage reminded me that strength comes in many forms, not just loud arguments or confrontations. At home, we started planning small things together. Emma would notice when Vanessa tried to manipulate a story to make me look bad and tell me about it quietly. Luke would ask questions in front of the family that exposed inconsistencies. I encouraged them, and they felt proud to be helping. It became a quiet game for them, but it had a big effect on Vanessa. She began to lose control over how people saw her, and the more she tried, the more obvious her manipulation became. I felt a new sense of determination. My children were my partners in this fight, and their innocence and intelligence were powerful weapons. I could protect them, and together we could slowly reclaim our lives. I wasn't helpless anymore. We had a way forward, a way to survive and even thrive despite Vanessa's cruelty. For the first time in months, I felt hope. Vanessa's cruelty grew sharper over time. She didn't just humiliate me in front of family anymore, she started spreading lies about me at work and among my friends. Rumors about me being careless, unreliable, and selfish began circulating, and even people I trusted started looking at me differently. It was a constant pressure, and some days I felt like I was walking through a storm that would never end. One of the hardest moments came when a close friend of the family, someone I had trusted for years, began believing Vanessa's stories. They stopped inviting me to gatherings and quietly sided with her, telling me I needed to change to fit in. It hurt more than anything. I felt cornered, like I was surrounded on all sides. The world seemed ready to turn against me, and I had no one to rely on but my children. Even though I felt trapped, I refused to let their attacks break me. I reminded myself that I had survived worse and that my children depended on me for strength. Emma and Luke noticed how tense I had become, and it worried them. But instead of shrinking back, they started acting more boldly. They saw that Vanessa underestimated them completely. Where Vanessa thought they were too young to understand, they were already learning to protect our family. Emma started asking questions in public situations that would expose small lies Vanessa told. She did it so naturally that it didn't seem planned, but it always caught people's attention. Luke would find small ways to point out mistakes Vanessa made when she tried to manipulate others. These little acts began to disrupt her control, and it frustrated her. She didn't know we were quietly working together, but it became clear that her influence was slipping. At work, I started being more careful. I documented everything Vanessa's rumors caused and made subtle corrections when needed, slowly rebuilding my reputation. I realized I couldn't fight her openly without losing credibility, so I focused on smart, quiet actions that protected my family while letting the truth speak for itself. Emma and Luke's small interventions gave me courage to keep going. Even when it felt like the world was against us, my children reminded me that we were stronger than Vanessa thought. Every time she tried to manipulate or humiliate us, we found a way to turn it into a moment of quiet justice. It wasn't about revenge yet, it was about survival and showing her that she couldn't control us anymore. By the end of this stage, I felt a growing sense of empowerment. We were no longer just defending ourselves, we were starting to reclaim control. Vanessa's schemes were losing their effect because we were smarter than she expected. My children and I were becoming a team, learning to protect each other and prove that courage, intelligence, and love can withstand even the harshest betrayal. I started feeling like I wasn't completely alone anymore when Mark, my late husband's best friend, quietly stepped in. He had always cared about David, and he saw how much Vanessa was hurting me and the children. He didn't lecture or try to take over, but he offered guidance and advice in small ways that made a huge difference. Sometimes it was a simple suggestion, like how to answer a question from Vanessa without giving her the upper hand. Other times, he would point out moments where I could show the truth without confrontation. His presence reminded me that not everyone believed Vanessa's lies, and that gave me hope. With Mark's support, I began to think more strategically. I realized I didn't have to fight Vanessa with anger or shouting. Instead, I could choose the right moments to expose her lies, carefully and calmly, so that others would notice the truth without me appearing vengeful. This approach made me feel stronger because it shifted the power back to me. I could respond, but on my terms, and I could protect my children while doing it. Emma and Luke continued to be my quiet allies. Their clever observations helped me anticipate Vanessa's moves. They noticed things I might have missed, like when Vanessa was about to exaggerate a story or manipulate someone's opinion. By paying attention to their insights, I could act before she caused damage. Sometimes it was as simple as bringing up the truth in a conversation at the right moment or correcting a small detail in front of others. These small actions started to show cracks in Vanessa's arrogance. People who had once believed her began noticing inconsistencies in her stories. Family gatherings started to feel different. Vanessa still tried to assert control, but her confidence wavered when she realized that her lies were being quietly exposed. People started questioning her statements, sometimes without even realizing it. I could see the shift in the way relatives looked at her. She was no longer untouchable. Her smirks became nervous glances, and her words lost their power over me. I felt a new sense of control over my life. I was no longer reacting to Vanessa's attacks blindly. With Mark's advice, my children's cleverness, and my own careful planning, I was taking back my dignity and my family's peace. Every small victory reminded me that patience and strategy were more powerful than anger. By the end of this period, I realized something important: strength isn't about proving yourself in a fight. It's about understanding your opponent, protecting the people you love, and exposing the truth in a way that leaves no room for lies. Vanessa could no longer intimidate me. The balance of power was shifting, and for the first time, I felt that real change was coming. My family was safe, and the people around us were beginning to see the truth. I began to set small plans in motion, careful and quiet, so that Vanessa's manipulations would backfire without anyone seeing it as revenge. At family events, I paid attention to her lies and prepared subtle ways to show the truth. Sometimes it was a casual remark that corrected a story, other times it was evidence quietly presented so her exaggerations became obvious. I made sure it was always calm and natural, so people noticed her mistakes without thinking I was attacking her. Emma and Luke were amazing partners in this. They had a way of catching Vanessa in lies without anyone realizing it was intentional. Once, during a family dinner, Vanessa told everyone I had forgotten an important appointment with the kids' school. Emma immediately asked a question about it, calmly revealing that I had handled it days before. Vanessa's face went red, and the family began to see the truth. Another time, Luke gave Vanessa a small gift for the children that she had tried to prevent, showing kindness that she could not interfere with. These moments made her control over others weaken. The more these small truths came out, the more Vanessa lost her confidence. She would try to twist situations, but people began noticing her manipulations instead of believing them. I could see it in the way relatives looked at her, the way neighbors reacted. Her smirks were replaced by hesitation, and the power she thought she had over us was slipping. I felt my own confidence growing with every small success. The fear and humiliation that had once weighed on me were fading. I no longer felt like a victim. I realized that careful action, patience, and using clever strategies could dismantle her influence without causing chaos. My children's cleverness and innocence became our secret strength. They reminded me that even young minds can see truth and justice in ways adults sometimes overlook. At the same time, I began to notice a shift in myself. I was calmer, more patient, and more confident in every decision I made. I no longer let Vanessa's words affect my mood or my actions. I started enjoying family events again, knowing I had a plan to protect myself and my children if she tried anything. Every small moment where Vanessa's lies were revealed felt like a victory. I didn't need to confront her angrily or make a scene. Quietly, carefully, we were taking back control. The family and neighbors began seeing the real Vanessa, and she could no longer manipulate them the way she had for so long. By the end of this phase, I felt a sense of empowerment I hadn't known in months. Vanessa's influence was crumbling, and my family was stronger for it. Emma and Luke had taught me that courage and intelligence could win battles without anger, and together, we were ready for the next steps in reclaiming our lives. The day finally came when I knew I had to confront Vanessa directly. I wasn't angry or looking for a fight, I just wanted the truth to be clear. I invited her to a small, private meeting in the living room, away from the chaos of a family gathering. I had my notes ready, and I quietly reminded myself that I was speaking for my family and for myself. I needed to stay calm and firm, not let her try to twist the situation. I began by calmly explaining the patterns I had noticed. I described the times she had tried to humiliate me in front of family, the lies she had spread about me, and the ways she had manipulated situations to make herself look better. I didn't yell or accuse angrily, I simply stated the facts. I even mentioned how Emma and Luke had noticed some of her exaggerations and small lies, and how their observations had helped me see the truth. Vanessa tried to deflect. She laughed nervously, saying I was imagining things, or that I was overreacting. But I didn't let her words shake me. I calmly pointed out specific moments and details, things that couldn't be denied. Each time she tried to twist a story, I had proof ready, dates, events, even small moments my children had revealed naturally. Her confidence began to crumble. I could see it in her eyes. She had always believed she could control the narrative, but now the truth was in plain sight. Family members who had been unsure, who had maybe questioned my side of the story, were now watching closely. I could feel them beginning to understand what had really been happening all along. Emma and Luke even helped in their own way. Emma quietly reminded Vanessa of small details she had gotten wrong, and Luke mentioned things Vanessa had tried to prevent but couldn't. Each small correction, delivered innocently by the children, made Vanessa stumble more and more. I stayed calm, letting their clever interventions strengthen my points. By the end of the conversation, Vanessa had nothing left to say. She was speechless, unable to deflect, unable to manipulate. I felt a quiet sense of power, not from anger or revenge, but from reclaiming my self-respect and my dignity. I had stood up for myself and my family without losing control or becoming the person Vanessa wanted me to be. After that day, the atmosphere in the family changed. People began seeing Vanessa differently, recognizing her manipulations, and understanding that I had been unfairly judged. I felt empowered in a way I hadn't felt since David passed. It wasn't about proving her wrong, it was about showing that I could protect my children, myself, and our lives without losing my peace. For the first time in a long time, I realized that reclaiming my dignity didn't require confrontation fueled by anger. It required patience, strategy, and calm determination. And in that moment, I knew we were finally free from Vanessa's control. After the confrontation, things began to change slowly but clearly. Vanessa's influence over the family disappeared. People who had once listened to her stories began seeing the truth. Her lies were exposed, and her attempts to control others no longer worked. Family gatherings became lighter, calmer, and free from the tension she had created for so long. It was a relief I hadn't thought I would feel again. With Vanessa out of the way, I could focus on rebuilding my life. I started reconnecting with friends I had lost touch with, people who had doubted me before but now saw my strength. At work, my reputation recovered. I became more confident in making decisions, and people began respecting my opinions again. Each small success reminded me that the years of humiliation and struggle had taught me something valuable, I was stronger than I ever realized. Emma and Luke were my heroes in this journey. Their courage, intelligence, and careful observations had helped me more than anyone else. They were proud of themselves, and I made sure to tell them every day how brave and smart they were. Other family members noticed it too. Relatives who had seen how the children had quietly exposed Vanessa's manipulation started praising them. People were amazed that even at such young ages, they had helped protect our family and bring the truth to light. I began reflecting on everything that had happened, the humiliation, the lies, the endless challenges. At first, it had felt impossible to survive. I had felt powerless and exhausted. But I realized that the pain I went through had shaped me. It made me more careful, stronger, and more aware of the people around me. I learned that betrayal can hurt deeply, but resilience, careful thinking, and love for my children can turn that pain into strength. Every day, I felt more secure in our home and in myself. I didn't need to prove anything to Vanessa or anyone else anymore. My children and I were safe, happy, and respected. I could watch Emma and Luke grow without fear, knowing that the lessons we had learned together would guide us through future challenges. The journey had not been easy. There were nights of tears and moments of doubt. But looking back, I understood that the struggle had given us something invaluable, a family united, stronger than ever, and full of quiet courage. I felt proud of myself, of Emma, and of Luke. We had survived the cruelty of someone who tried to destroy us, but we had come out wiser, stronger, and closer than ever. At last, our lives felt peaceful. The constant tension, fear, and humiliation were behind us. We could enjoy small moments, laugh together, and move forward. I realized that even in the darkest times, love and resilience can create light, and my children had shown me that true strength comes from standing together. After everything that had happened, I finally found a fresh start. Emma, Luke, and I moved into a new home, a place that belonged to us alone. It felt lighter, brighter, and full of possibilities. There were no whispers behind my back, no judgmental eyes, no manipulations from Vanessa or the rest of the family. For the first time in years, I felt completely free to make decisions for myself and my children without fear. Every day brought small victories. I could organize our home the way I wanted, spend more time with the children, and even take breaks without feeling guilty or watched. I enjoyed the little things, cooking meals without stress, reading bedtime stories without interruption, and seeing Emma and Luke laugh without worrying about someone trying to tear us down. These simple moments reminded me of how far we had come. The children thrived in our new life. Emma grew more confident, proudly taking on new challenges at school and at home. Luke became more curious, asking questions and solving problems with a cleverness that always amazed me. It was clear to everyone that these children had been shaped by love and guidance rather than fear. Their courage and intelligence became a quiet but powerful force, showing me every day that they could handle challenges with grace. I often watched them play in the yard, feeling a deep sense of pride and relief. The memory of all the humiliation, the lies, and the betrayal seemed far away now. I realized that no matter what Vanessa and others had done to try to break us, we had stayed united. My children and I had become unstoppable together. That thought gave me peace I hadn't known in a long time. I also learned an important lesson for myself. True strength isn't about revenge or proving someone wrong. It isn't about fighting back with anger. Strength comes from love, patience, resilience, and clever thinking. It comes from standing firm for yourself and those you care about, and from using wisdom instead of letting emotions take control. Vanessa had tried to destroy us, but in doing so, she revealed her own weaknesses. Her cruelty had only made us stronger, closer, and wiser. With each day that passed, I felt more in control of my life. I no longer feared judgment or humiliation. I had reclaimed my dignity and independence, and my children and I had built a safe, happy, and loving life together. The past no longer had power over us. Instead, it had shaped us into a family that could face any challenge with confidence. Watching Emma and Luke run and play, I smiled and thought quietly to myself, they tried to humiliate me, but they couldn't touch what really matters. My children and I are unstoppable. That feeling of love, resilience, and quiet power was more satisfying than any revenge. Our family had survived cruelty, and we had come out stronger, happier, and united. That was the real victory.